Today in this video, I'm going to share my process for creating the first page of my comic, The Tale of Pumari, and just break down my process so that you can understand it and hopefully help you create your own page that gets your readers to turn the next page. So let's get to it. So before I explain my actual drawing process, we have to understand what the first page is meant to do. Besides the cover art for the comic, the first page needs to create intrigue and make the reader want to continue reading the comic. All my favorite comics do that, and they really make you want to know more about the story and continue to read and make you flip that page. And so that's what I want to accomplish in my own work. So to start, I want to show you my script for page one and break it down and show you how I take my script and create something that best suits the story and best tells the story I'm going for. So here's my script for page one. And so the first thing I did with the script is just create a kind of synopsis for what's happening on the page. And so for page one, my synopsis is Pumari and the team have lost all their belongings and are out of money. They sit in their rundown room at an inn, bored, and await Marai's return. After waiting a couple of hours, Pumari and Bakari are agitated and almost get into a fight. And so it gives me an idea of what I need to draw on the first page. So for my thumbnails here in Clip Studio, I already know that they're going to be in the inn, and because it's my first page, I wanted to make it interesting. I want to make it intriguing, and so the first thing I drew was an establishing shot of the town that they're in right now. So this is going to be my largest panel. I knew that already to start. So in this scene, I drew a town. I'm keeping it very rough. I just want to basically have a idea of where I want the story to go. And so I don't need anything very specific or very detailed. I don't need anything that detailed yet at this stage. I just want to get ideas on the paper. This first panel tells the viewer where the story takes place and then what kind of world it is. And I basically just want to make the reader be able to imagine themselves walking in this town and understand that this place is kind of run down and it's raining. And so that's what I represented in these thumbnails here in this thumbnail. And so as we move down on the page, I also marked where I want the word balloons to be, and I want the reader to read left to right. So I'm going in like a Z. As we move down the page, my idea is to introduce the characters by having them talk while we get closer and closer to the room that they're in the tavern or inn that they're in and living in right now. And so I just get closer and closer, I have a shot of the door of their room, and then I have a shot of the actual character Pumari and start introducing the characters to the reader. So yeah, this is my first page thumbnail. The biggest panel is my most important panel, and that's why I wanted it to be an establishing shot, because the town that they're in this story is important. The setting is definitely important for the story. And then I just follow up that establishing shot with mid-shot, close-up shots of the character and reveal a little bit more of the story by doing that. So that's my first page out of about 20 that I have. So after my thumbnails are done for the entire comic, what I really want to do next is gather as much reference as possible so that it will help me draw the comic easier and just make this whole process a lot faster. So this is my reference board for this comic. I gathered a lot of medieval type of houses and castles. I wanted that kind of vibe to permeate in my story. By having these images, it really makes my job easier of drawing that setting in that town that they're in. And so I have reference for comics and reference for the actual buildings and things like that. So after the thumbnail stage, after you have your thumbnails completed, you've drawn some rough sketches, and you have a good idea of how you want the story to go. Just move on to an actual page and start really refining the rough sketches to create something like this. This is what I have so far. It's not finished, but it's definitely close to being finished. At this point, all I have to do is do the inks. So I'm using the A5 preset in Clip Studio Paint. That's what I use to create this. And my idea for these sketches is I want it to be as close to the final product as possible. so that when I'm inking, I know exactly what I'm drawing, know exactly what I need to do to make this look finished. And so far this looks finished. I'm really happy with how this is going. And for the rest of this video, I'm pretty much just going to play a time lapse of this page and show you how I really started drawing this. And so when you're actually drawing the page from the thumbnails or over the top of the thumbnails, you can lower the opacity on the thumbnails and change the color. Makes it easier to see what you're drawing over. But your sketches should be really clear, easily readable, and that's because I'm not the only one that needs to understand what's going on. The person reading needs to understand what's going on in the story, and it needs to be clear and easily readable, because if I can't understand it, then you definitely aren't going to be able to understand it. The person reading is definitely not going to be able to understand it. So as you start sketching the scenes in each panel, it's a good idea to figure out whether or not you need a perspective grid. For this establishing shot, I created a simple perspective grid that helped me draw this town, this little street view of the town, and it came in handy, and it really helped me understand the perspective and how to draw these buildings in perspective. And so if you're drawing a background or a character in a background, you probably need a perspective grid. It's important to know perspective and that fundamental, because you can literally apply it to every panel that you create in a comic. And obviously you don't need it in every panel, because some panels will be close-up shots of the character like I'm drawing in here, and some are mid shots. But if you understand perspective and how it works, you can draw establishing shots really well. You can draw buildings and environments with your characters very well. And so moving forward in my comic, I know I need that skill, and I know I need to be able to translate drawing perspective into drawing buildings and drawing environments and backgrounds with characters along that, to make it more interesting and to tell the story the best way possible. As I was drawing this page as well, it was really fun just to see it all come together. The thumbnails and using reference really helped me get to this point. I just basically had to draw over the thumbnails and use the reference for my guide, and also using other artists' work as my inspiration helped me a lot to create this refined sketch. And I'm excited to see how it turns out and how I can ink it and really create a finished product throughout this whole comic. So it was definitely fun. I like the mood that I set in the first establishing shot. It's a rainy town, and this is where my characters are, and they're talking, and I just draw the word balloons as well inside of the sketch as well. It's good to plan that out too. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully I explained my process as clear as possible. Hopefully you understood that, and hopefully this helps you create your own comic. Just seeing my process and how I translated thumbnails to the finished page. Well, it's not finished yet, but it's getting there. So yeah, but it's cool to see this whole process come together, and I'm excited to do the inking. And if you want to see a video about me inking this page, let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.